What's the beef? There's a lot of it, actually,
Mm.
with two former stars, Derek Jeter and Alex Rodriguez,
Oh, this is
sending
interesting.
shots towards Brian Cashman. Cash is like, I've been in the biz for a minute. I'm clapping back. And he did. So there were two different sides of the coin here. A-Rod was more ripping the entire roster, saying that it was a terrible roster, the 2025 Yanks. And Cashman slyly pointed out how 48 hours prior, A-Rod picked them to win the World Series. So stay hot. I think Jeter's is the one that we should focus more on, and we're going to get sound here from Cash coming up in just a sec. But Jeter was defending Boone and saying he didn't have any inside knowledge, but that he felt like Boone was being told what to do, which is pretty standard. I will actually side comment in today's sport, but he was taking a shot at Cashman and his group for, taking over and being too analytical and the whole deal, right? So Cash did not just say, I'm not going to cover that. He actually went on a radio show, WFAN, and said this.
And they don't know. Clearly, they don't know. I know that DJ said that. I don't know what he meant by it. He did say he doesn't have inside knowledge when he said it, but he did say it for whatever reason. And I think that's the boogaboo that people get to throw out there when they got nothing else to throw. It's like, essentially he agrees with me that Aaron Boone's a good manager. This is Derek's commentary, and I agree with him. And then, there's always the boogeyman of other people are making the calls. Analytics. People like to throw that too, and none of that's accurate. At the end of the day, you put Joe Torre on a deposition, you put Joe Girardi under a deposition, or you put Aaron Boone under a deposition. I've never picked a lineup. We've never picked a lineup. We don't tell them who to play. We don't tell them who to pitch, whether it's the pen or the rotation. We do have conversations, like every organization, about what's best at times. In our opinion, their opinion, they'll ask us various different things, and that's about process and setups. But in the end of the day, they have the power of the lineup and in game, and it just isn't the case. So it's just a sad, throwaway comment for people to make that don't really know.
A little extra context too. A-Rod doesn't love Cash because in 2013 he got the 211 game PED suspension, kind of broke up the relationship with him and with many others. To be fair, he sued everybody besides himself on that one. Jeter, after 2010, didn't get the long-term deal, and he's bitter about that, and that's fair. Just to give you a little context that they're not BFFs. Your thoughts on one side versus the other here?
Yeah, interesting. Just very interesting. It's a little. I think everybody's a little upset right now. The Yankees aren't in the playoffs and they're not fighting their way to get to the World Series. I think that's where it stems from. I think there's a little bit of tough love. Like, hey man, why aren't the Yankees winning? There's got to be some sort of issue. I mean, trying to defend. I think Derek Jeter's trying to defend his buddy, Aaron Boone, which in all right he has, and he can. And I think, here's the thing, you don't really see this too much in Yankee land, the talking back and not back and forth to each other, but one guy, especially in such prowess and such Hall of Fame status as Derek Jeter is, all of a sudden now he's got a platform. He could say basically what he wants on the channel he's on and talking about baseball. And he let it loose. He was like, listen, I don't have a source, but at the same time, I got to feel that I know Aaron's not making the choices here. And Cashman all of a sudden came back with it. So I'd love to see what transpires after this. Do I think anything will? I don't. But a little ding here, a little ding there. There's nothing wrong with that. These two grown men trying to, help each other out, making sure things are said right.
Jeter might not have a direct source, Kratz, but is he wrong? Jeter recently worked in a front office, and I think on Cash's side, bringing up Joe Torre or even Joe Girardi at this point is so long ago. The game has changed. No manager makes decisions on their own, and they shouldn't make decisions on their own. They get very valuable information. I think the part where the fight is going on, and there are others involved too with this fight, is that Aaron Boone is just heading to the ballpark and saying, my way or the highway, baby. Everything I do is completely driven by me. Booney wants the information, but also, if he disagreed every single day, would he be working for the Yankees?
No. But if you don't disagree with people, you never get anywhere. The organization that I was asked about the most, and I've said this before on the show, when I went back to the Yankees was the Rays. What do the Rays do different? What do the Rays do? And I said, the Rays put everything they can into wanting to win, and they're not afraid of letting people say things, bring things up, and contradict each other. And I'll be honest, I saw that with the Yankees. I saw those conversations. Were there people that didn't agree? Yeah, absolutely. But they didn't get fired for not agreeing. The people that I saw get fired from that organization were people who completely went against what the organization's view of how to do things was going to be. So when they brought in Aaron Boone was not like, oh man, I got to have this job. To me, Aaron Boone has done an incredible job because he sets an environment that fosters people to question why they are saying something. Why would you put Erik Kratz in the lineup over Gary Sanchez? Why would you put Kyle Higashioka in the lineup over Gary Sanchez or Giancarlo Stanton? All these things are discussed and there's disagreements. But I believe at the end of the day, this organization wants to win and they push in the same direction. And some things, there's a louder voice. Sometimes it's analytics is a louder voice. Sometimes it has to be Boone is a louder voice and him saying, look, this is what I'm seeing on the field. And I completely disagree with what A-Rod said. This was a good team. They just were not better than the Blue Jays in this series.
I'm keeping A-Rod's part mostly out of it. It's like, they're going to win the World Series 2 days later. They're the worst team ever. Like, okay. I think the Jeter Cashman part actually has juice to it because I see both sides here. Cash is not showing up in the dugout saying boop, bop, beep every single day, but the front office does help make
He said
a good chunk of the decision making.
Never done it.
But they give them information every day. Here's what the lineup should look like. You do you, right? If you think this player is going through it and you're talking to him, that's fine. But that's normal. Like Joe Madden was on our show the other day. You were on with him and he pushes against this, but still for years, I know for the Cubs, for example, they'd send him all his info. And then that morning he'd be on his tablet and he'd be taking their info, mixing it with what he's got. Like that's okay.
That's fine.
You're allowed to give info. My thing is,
I think the lineup saying, here's what the lineup is. Good luck. And you have no choice.
Right. And there are some teams that do that too. Right. So
that's not them.
Yeah, that's not them. That's fine. But my point is to act like they don't have influence. Of course they have influence. Like every team has influence these days. And I don't know. I know we can go all day about this, but go ahead. Last word, Kratz.
No, I don't have a last word. Okay. We could talk all the time about it. But in my opinion, Cashman has done everything to put this team in a place to win. The moves, the guys that he's picked up after they pivoted from not getting Soto, that's clearly no-brainer. Cashman shouldn't be on the hot seat. In my opinion, he should not be on the hot seat. The organization, maybe some of the decisions outside of Cashman and Boone, I think these two guys should have the full trust from Hal Steinbrenner to continue to do what they've been doing, and that's making the playoffs year in and year out. And I think they're going to make a run at the World Series again next year, some way, somehow.
Yeah, they've assembled good rosters. They've made their mistakes. I think the Volpe situation, the more I've heard about it, doesn't make sense. Like, oh, it was more of a problem than we thought. Okay, then he shouldn't have been playing as much. That's a separate issue. The last thing, real quick, the analytics side, like, oh, the analytics excuse. Yeah, it is a real thing, okay? The Yankees are top 3 in that for a long period of time and own it. They always act like, oh, no, we don't care about that. And then behind the scenes, like you talk to, I'm including A-list players that I've heard from, not this year, last year, but it's probably like that have said like, yeah, we had to talk to them internally. It was getting too much. We go back and forth. We don't feel like they're hearing us on that. Like, that's not a secret. That's minor leagues. That's major leagues. And there's always that give and take, and they're not the only team. But to act like, oh, we hear the analytics complaints. Like, to me, that's belittling everybody around you and lying. But that's me.
I think Yankee fans also need to get hit with this dose of reality. Yes, they have not won since 2009. In 2009, and even like in the earlier when they won back in the early 2000s, they were this far above everybody else in the sense of like some of their forward thinking and spending. Well, that spending's never changed. The difference is a lot of teams have closed that gap now. The Yankees aren't getting worse. The other teams have closed that gap with the edge that the Yankees had. So now the Yankees have to find that new edge. And to me, that new edge really sits in the person-to-person interaction. How do you not get that stuff wrong? How do you get that stuff throughout the 162, and then implement it into the postseason? Like, this is a team that was in the World Series last year. Like, they were in the World Series. They got beaten 5 games? Yes. They were in the World Series. They are right there. I just think the rest of the league has caught up to them. Now they have to find a way to open that gap back up again.